Good afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you're watching from, whether it's on this new moon in Aries day in March or some other time. I am Deborah Roth, and welcome to this week's edition in my Inner Goddess Team video series. It's kind of an auspicious week, as indicated, number one, by the fact that this is the Aries new moon. New moons are always a powerful time for setting intentions, for looking ahead to what we want to manifest in the next month. Aries adds another piece to that, which allows us to remember that we're beginning a cycle. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and so it's actually the beginning of the astrology year. And then, of course, and this is what I wore last night for our spring equinox celebration. Yesterday was the spring equinox. So we are sitting in that energy right now of equal night, equal dark. That's what equinox means. It's the point in the wheel of the year when the daylight hours equal the number of nighttime hours. So it's a really wonderful metaphor for balance and for looking at the places in your life that you want to bring more into sync. And of course, it is the marker, it is the beginning of spring when the sun moves into Aries, as it did yesterday to mark the equinox. That is the first day of spring, and it's a gorgeous day here in New York City. So whatever we do today would be a powerful one just because of everything that's going on this week. Please, if you like what you hear, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, find me on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But who I want to introduce you to, I had such fun with her. Have you ever heard of the Norse goddess Idun or Iduna? Now, I know tons of goddesses, and I say that all the time here. She's one that I didn't really know much about, and she is considered the goddess of the spring and of longevity and youth and several other things, sexuality, and you'll hear why when you hear who she was, kind of her claim to fame. If you are more familiar with the Norse gods and goddesses than I am, I know something of them, and I learned a lot more, had so much fun learning about Iduna or Idun. You will know that she was the bearer of the magic apples that kept the Norse gods and goddesses young. They were not naturally immortal like some of, Greek and Roman gods and goddesses were. So they depended on Idun's apples. And they apparently also, according to the mythology, you had to receive it directly from her hand. So there was something actually in her, and this is where I think she gets tied to the spring, even though we're talking about apples, which are harvested in the fall. But the fact that this life-giving energy, this rejuvenating energy that her apples contained only worked when they were given by her, means that she had to have had some of that regenerative magic within herself. So I think that's why she may be, a couple places. I saw her both associated with the spring and with the fall. It seems like a likely connection in the spring because this is the time of the maiden, and she was known as the maiden of the gods, or the goddess of eternal youth. And this is the time of year in feminist spirituality where we talk about the four faces of the divine feminine: maiden, mother, Amazon, queen, and wise woman crone. That this is the maiden time of year. This is the fresh opening up time of year. And of course, at least if you're in the northern hemisphere, if you look out your window, you will see just what's bursting out all over. So I would love it. If anybody has more awareness of her than I do, I'd love to, I'm always open to be taught. This is a lovely image of her that I found. Let me put her in a place that you all can see her. There she is, kind of bestowing her apples on some of these gods and goddesses who kneel in front of her. Now, her apples, you can't really tell super well, were kept in a basket of ash wood. And apparently, ash wood, and I will definitely, on my YouTube description, I will definitely give you the the website that I found a lot of this wonderful stuff on. I looked at a bunch of them, but it really kind of boiled down to this wonderful website and something written by Galina Kraskova. And she talks about, let's see, that the ash wood is connected with a warrior's tree and associated with moving through obstacles. So that's another kind of way, kind of like the Ganesha, the Hindu god that breaks through obstacles. Her connection to ash could have something to do with that. Now, her family is kind of interesting and really speaks to a lot of these qualities that she embodies, and that we can, in our imaginations and whatever spiritual practice you have, that you can call on her. She was the daughter of, let's see, of a dwarf. They were called the Duergar race. Also God. They were gods and goddesses associated with craftsmanship and creativity. And her mother was a Valkyrie. And you probably heard of Valkyries, and I hate to say it, maybe some of the Marvel movies or something. But the Valkyries were the 12 emissaries, women of Odin's, who would go into the battlefield and retrieve slain warriors and carry them back to Odin's Valhalla. And so they had a real warrior spirit. And so when you think about those two gods, races of gods and goddesses coming together, that Iduna was born from, she's got on the one hand this fiery warrior spirit, even though she seemed to be a very gentle goddess, and she also has this creative craftsmanship connected to her. So it's kind of fun to think that she embodies all that, in addition to whatever regenerative qualities that she embodied, being this bearer of these magical immortality apples. Let's see what else. Oh, she was married, and this adds another piece to her, which I think is where the love connection and sensuality comes in with her. She was married to a poetic god called Bragi, Bragi. And so when you want to invoke her, when you want to share something special with a loved one, or maybe make an offer to someone that you'd like to get to know better, offer them an apple in her name. One of my favorite resources is Patricia Telesco, and she has a whole bunch of really fun apple magic ideas for invoking Iduna, or really anything, that you can peel an apple as you ask a question, and then throw it over your shoulder, and then look to see if the shape said something, sort of like tea leaves, only with an apple peel. Or drink apple juice first thing in the morning before you say anything, and invoke Iduna, Idun as you do it, and improve your communication. So she has lots of, and I have to tell you a little bit about the big myth, because that was kind of fascinating. So there's a point, probably the myth that she's most associated with and most known for, is that she is abducted by a giant, by one of the giant gods, Thiazi. And that happens because Loki, the mischief goddess, the trickster god, has had to make a negotiation with Thiazi, and so he helps Thiazi abduct Iduna so that he can get all these these apples of immortality. And of course, when the gods and goddesses discover that, because they start to grow old and they start to get gray hair, they rise up, they find out that it's Loki who had orchestrated this whole thing, and so they make him go to the giant's lair, and he disguises himself in Freya, another famous Norse goddess, in her magical cloak as a falcon. And so he flies to the lair of the giants and grabs, turns Iduna into a walnut, and so he can grab her in his claws and flies away with her. When Thiazi realizes this, he tears after them, runs back to and turns himself into an eagle and flies to Asgard, which is the dwelling place of the gods and goddesses. And they see him coming, and so they set a big pile of wood shavings on fire after Loki and Iduna have safely made their way back. And in his eagle form, Thiazi is unable to stop. His feathers catch fire, and he falls to the ground dead. So, you've got to believe that in these myths there is a grain of truth somewhere. They're so complex in so many of these cultures that there must have been something that they drew them from. Maybe it's just very imaginative writers, who knows? But the symbolism there and the metaphors in all of these, I just find so rich and fascinating. And another little piece of this myth is that Thiazi's daughter, Skadi, she's a giantess as well. When she discovers her father's death, she, zooms to Asgard and demands reparations and demands and to avenge her father. And they offer for her to marry one of their own. And that actually forges this alliance between these two kind of opposing camps of gods, the giants and then the Aesir and Vanir, who are the two of the camps of gods and goddesses, two other camps of gods and goddesses. So in some peripheral way, Iduna's kidnapping ended up forging this alliance between Norse gods and goddesses. So lots of rich stuff there. And I thought about, definitely, I put more information, or I recap some of this on my YouTube channel. Just go to, Deborah Roth there, and you can see it usually tomorrow. It might be tonight. But I've given you a bunch of ways that you can invoke, that you can call on this wonderful energy that we're playing with this week. But what I wanted to do really is to share with you, because apparently it's been a couple years. I thought I had done this much more frequently. There is a beautiful spring equinox chant that I invite you to just listen and take in. And as we are in these next few days, still within that moment, it usually lasts for about 3 days before and after, when the sunrise and sunset remain the same. And then we start to move ever closer to more and more sunlight as we move past this point of perfect balance that the spring equinox represents. So I'm going to share with you a lovely chant that I sang actually last night at our spring equinox celebration at Fourth Universalist Society, where I typically do my new moon circles. I did my new moon circle virtually on Monday at the Wellness Universe, and I will put the link for that because there's a recording of that with some kind of cool ritual-y stuff in there. I'll put that on the YouTube channel as well. So this lovely spring equinox, or any equinox really, I've done it, when I look through my notes, I've done it apparently just at the fall equinox a couple years ago. And it goes: air moves us, fire transforms us, water shapes us, earth heals us, and the balance of the wheel goes round and round, and the balance of the wheel goes round. Air moves us, fire transforms us, water shapes us, earth heals us, and the balance of the wheel goes round and round, and the balance of the wheel goes round. So take that in as we sit for a moment in this time of perfect balance in the year, as we reflect on this new cycle that's being started with the new moon, with Aries, and as you contemplate how you might connect with the energies and the symbolism that's connected with the Norse goddess of immortality. Well, she's not immortal, but she knows how to keep people immortal. The Norse goddess of spring, of youth, of longevity, Iduna. Thanks so much for joining me, and hope to see you. I think I'm on a break next week, celebrating my mom's birthday, but sometime in the next few weeks. Namaste. Have a beautiful beginning of your spring.